meeting for this evening. First item on the agenda is, as usual, public comment. Is there any public comment this evening? There being none. Next item is the review of minutes. The minutes for review are those for November 28, 2018. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion's made to accept the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is the liabilities to assets program application review. This is presented by the Community Economic Development Director. And representatives from New View Communities will provide resources for distressed or blighted properties in the Clinton area. And I believe someone from New View and Planning Board. Yeah. Mr. Lipka from the Planning Board are both here to discuss that project with us. Gentlemen, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Mark Doe, and I'm the Executive Director of New View Communities. And tonight what we wanted to do is just inform you about the program, be able to take any questions, and then I think the idea is to vote at your next meeting next week. This program started the way many programs do with this administration, with the Baker administration. They wanted to be able to help out with housing in the area. They came to New View and they asked us to pull together a group of communities to see if there was something in common that we could work on together as in North Central Massachusetts. And from that, liabilities to assets was born. This is one of the ways that the Baker administration really works is this is an opportunity for each of the communities to get involved. It really is very much designed to have a lot of local control. What the program will do, the administration will allocate $2.5 million for the next 3 years, so $7.5 million total for this new corporation, New View Liabilities to Assets, to acquire, say, 30 to 40 homes in that range, renovate them, and then sell them to first-time home buyers not necessarily first-time home buyers, sell them to home buyers who earn up to 110% of the area median income. The reason why the Baker administration was interested in doing this program here is our area of this Commonwealth was hit much harder by the foreclosure crisis than many other areas. And although Clinton is doing fairly well on the real estate market, housing here is still very much affordable, particularly compared to many of the communities to the east. So the 5 communities that got together were Clinton, Athol, Gardner, Leominster, and Fitchburg. In each case, the town worked to, or city worked to identify problem properties that they had. Those properties have then gone through a process with the planning board. And the way the program will work is each town, the New View Liabilities to Assets will never acquire or redevelop a property unless that property is nominated by the town, proposed by the town to be redeveloped and to be acquired and then redeveloped. We would then, the properties are targeted to be 1 and 2 family homes. Maybe a 3-family or so could be in there, but this is designed for home ownership. And the idea is the homes are relatively clustered because we want to help neighborhoods in general. So some of the issue is related to that one particular property, but that that property can also have a real detriment to its neighbors as well. So these homes are relatively clustered. In Clinton, that's easy to do because you have a very small square miles. So the homes are clustered. We'll then renovate those homes and sell them back to first-time home buyers. We've already talked about how the New View Liabilities to Asset Board will only approve a property for redevelopment for participating, so the municipality will nominate that property to the board. You actually have a seat on that board too, New View Liabilities to Assets, which is a special corporation, so Phil Duffy is your representative on that board, and the board would then decide as a whole, which properties we would then go, whether to move forward with that property or not. So, and that's designed so that somebody's not presenting $1 million property that we really can't afford to do. It has to be within that. What's a little different about this is it uses an existing law, Chapter 121A, in a way that it hasn't been used before. So it's a pilot program. It's the first of its kind in the state. And the reason why we're using that pilot program is it gives us the power of eminent domain. The reason why that power is important is many of these properties, the reason they haven't been sold is because there's a problem with the title and there's nobody taking care of them. So we found that oftentimes that happens where a bank sold something to the servicer lost it, and the bank is unwilling to do anything with it. In that way, it's a complement to the Attorney General's receivership property program that I know Clinton uses. The difference here is that we can acquire that property, and instead of just fixing the areas that don't meet code, we can really renovate the property up to the best standards, so that a property that's been at the bottom of the list and just never seems to get somebody to put enough money into it, we'll be able to renovate that and turn that property that's a huge liability into an asset. The other piece of this, because it's under Chapter 121A, there's a change in the way the taxes will work. For the very short period of time that New View Liabilities to Assets owns the home, instead of paying a property tax, there'll be an excise tax, which is calculated. It's a complicated formula, but it's calculated. We've talked to your assessor already about that, and they've agreed to do that. Those excise taxes will be sent to the state, and then they'll be sent back to Clinton. That should be a relatively short period of time. After that, the property will come back on the rolls at its newly assessed value. The other part is that no properties at this point can be added onto the list. They can only be taken off the list because of the hearing process that we've had. So I think that's sort of the overview of the general program, and we can I'm happy to take your questions about what the planning board has done in Clinton.
Well,
Mr. Lipka.
the last couple of months, we've held open meetings and invited the homeowners to the meeting. We've had a number of them come in and voice concerns and questions. But after it was all said and done, the planning board voted to enter into an agreement into this program with the stipulation we wouldn't take action for 6 months. We'd give people the opportunity to clean up their properties and take care of them. And we also put a safeguard in place that a property had to be nominated by both the planning board and the Board of Health before it went in to the program. Over half of these houses are already in the receivership program, and they're at different various stages. So, and there's a few of them there's being work done to them as we speak. So we're probably talking about maybe a half a dozen homes that would probably be eligible for this program. There's a few that are just abandoned, and we can't get a receiver to take them because they can't make their money back if they make the necessary repairs. So those are the houses we're looking at to enter into this program with, the ones that we just can't do anything with.
Okay. Any questions from members of the board?
I just had one. The income requirements and deed restrictions, it says here in the second paragraph, still being worked out. Will that be worked out with, by the next time we meet to vote on this, or?
So the income required is, sorry, I should have explained more of that. The general outline of that has been agreed to. It'll be up to 110% of the area median income, which is based on Clinton, so not Athol, but Clinton, your area here. And it'll be 7-year deed restriction to be restricted to a first-time home buyer. The exact way that deed restriction will be worked out, we have not finalized that yet. We're still negotiating the final part of that with DHCD. But we want to keep it very simple. So after 7 years, the person, if they stay there for 7 years, they'll have full equity in the property, and it'll be just like any other property in Clinton. During that time period, what we don't want to do is, if we put a lot more money into the property than we can sell it for because it's income restricted, we don't want somebody flipping the property and then making a lot of money right then just by living in it for a year. So the precise details of how we're going to stop somebody from doing that flipping, we have not worked out yet. We're working that with the state.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
I don't
Yes.
have any questions, but I just want to thank Mr. Lipka. He's been trying to fix up these houses for many years, himself and his board members on the Board of Health. And I just want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions about the mechanics of the financial aspects. Presumably, the cost of acquisition and repair and renovation is going to be higher than fair market value for the property?
Yes, otherwise we assume that the private market would take care of it.
Right, so that differential in cost is being paid for by the $2.5 million
Correct.
annual budget for, okay.
Yep, and part of that, one of the pieces we're still working out with DHCD and that the board will work out too is these properties have a 7-year deed restriction, so we want the homes to, we don't want to have a 4-year roof on a 7-year home. Or a roof might be not be a good example, you might do that anyhow, but a heating system or something like that. We want to make sure that these are going to last that 7 years. So we're working that exact part out with the state. How, what are going to be the exact standards of rehabilitation, but that's the idea.
And what happens in the situation where maybe there's a profit?
So what
The
happens is
corporation.
there will be a profit. All those monies will be recycled into the program, and we'll just, until all the proceeds will come back to the program, and we'll keep spending all those proceeds until everything's done. So in fact, it's more than $7.5 million because we'll also have the sale proceeds from the homes as well to continue to invest in each of the communities.
And when you say it comes back into the program, it comes back into these specific, this program, with these specific communities?
Correct. These
Okay.
specific, it can only be used for liabilities to assets. So we will draw down a check from the state. I'm making up a number for $100,000. We sell the home for $80,000. That $80,000 then goes back into the kitty and can be recycled again. And there's a $20,000 that is lost in the, not lost, but subsidizes that home.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Chair, I
Kennedy?
don't have any questions. I wanted to echo Mr. Sargent's thoughts. This is a thankless job, and it's not sexy, but it makes a huge difference, especially people in these neighborhoods that are affected by, even just one house can just really bring down a block. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have basically a question or two about the mechanics of the program. So, a house is sitting there in poor repair, no work is being done, it's been vacant for 3 years, and there's a process where that house is identified for the program. Who makes that identification?
Phil has already made the identification of the 16 homes
Okay.
on that.
So Phil has, so the homes have already been identified?
Correct.
Okay, so once they're identified and once this program gets going, eminent domain proceedings occur. The town does the eminent domain, or you
No.
guys do it?
The town has no liability for the eminent, hopefully, we're not using eminent domain.
Okay.
Hopefully, for most of these, we're going to somebody and say, we'd like to buy your home.
Oh,
And
we're
they say
gonna try to
yes,
do it
and that's
first.
the simplest way.
Okay,
The eminent domain would be really a last resort,
Okay.
or in some cases, it could be a friendly eminent domain. Like we've been in a situation where a large lender did the foreclosure wrong. They have a mortgage, and because they did the foreclosure wrong, they can't move forward with it. They can't find the owner. That's the perfect place where we might do a friendly eminent domain, where we would. It might not be friendly to the owner, but be friendly to the lender who sort of is in possession. At that point, so once the town looks at those 16 and says, our first one on our list is whatever it is, 1 Main Street, that project will then be proposed to the board, which includes 1 member from each of the communities and 5 other members, so there's a 10-member board. We would then come out, look at that home, say, is this a good use of funds? And then decide whether to say yes or no. And again, I think the idea is that you want to be able to have some expensive homes and some inexpensive homes so that we can blend the costs out. We're not afraid to do an expensive home, but we can't do only expensive homes because part of the idea here is to create some housing units as well.
okay, so it sounds like the primary responsibility of the town is to identify the property to you guys. Is that?
To identify and then to nominate, correct, both
Okay.
of those things. So first, there's a search, which properties are eligible, and then of that group, which is the one that
We should go
has
for
the
it.
most, exactly, have the
Okay,
most bang for the buck.
all right, okay.
These are all vacant homes also, I mean,
Yes.
there's nobody living in it.
Right,
They're all-
I understand.
Okay,
Yeah. I just wanted to know how it, you know, what were the mechanics of
okay,
it? Who
Yeah.
did what?
okay.
That's all. I was
All right.
curious. And so then you acquire the home, fix it up, and sell it to a first-time home buyer at whatever it is, 1.5% of the median income or 2 point, whatever it is. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Well, do you have
Yes,
anything
just
else?
one correction.
Okay.
It doesn't, I don't think that we've said that it has to be a first-time home buyer. So it could be
Oh, all right,
any.
I thought I saw that somewhere, or heard it.
I did
You
say
mentioned
that,
it correctly.
but I just want to correct, I don't think that it's restricted just to first-time home buyers.
Okay, all right.
The object here, we do want home buyers to be able to gain equity. These are not going to be wealthy, you know, it's 110% of area median income, so that's fine for them to gain equity, but it's really about stabilizing the neighborhoods.
Okay. Anything else to tell us?
No?
So I guess we're going to take this up next week. Any further comments from members of the board?
Do we need to postpone it till next week?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank
And
you.
thank you both for your efforts in this area. I'm sure we'll find it very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is administrative business. And we have late-night closings. Following establishments are requesting late-night closings for Saturdays in the month of December 2018. Clinton Turn Vereen, Crystal Cafe, Liberty Tavern, Ringside Cafe, Spruce Street Tavern, The Simple Man Saloon, and the Polish American Club. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant the following late-night establishments for late closings for the month of December 2018.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to grant the late-night closings. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. We have a request for use of the town hall. An application was filed for the use of the town hall by NIPRO employees by the annual, I guess by NIPRO for the annual employee holiday party to be held on 12/14/18. And what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the request, Mr. Chairman?
Second.
Motion's made, seconded to approve the request for a Christmas party for the NIPRO employees at the Fallon Memorial Auditorium. There any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I don't know if it's just a clerical error. It says on the application, December 13th, which is a Thursday, so I just wanted to make that point of clarification. So I don't know if I just entered wrong, so I just don't want it.
With the 13th, usually they did it on a Friday, but maybe it's Thursday.
Yeah, this one says the 13th, so I don't know if Tina,
13th.
yeah. 13th or 14th, I guess. I don't know if both those days are open, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
So we'll approve it for the 13th or 14th, whichever is the correct date. Is that all right?
Yep.
It's fine with
Okay.
me.
All right, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried. Next item is old and new business. And first item is there's a Keno license for the VFW Post 23. If the local licensing authority objects to the issuance of the license, it must request a hearing within 21 days. I assume this is just informational. I'm also assuming that we would not have any objection. We don't have to take a vote.
yeah, no, the board doesn't have to endorse it, it's just the state provides notice, and if the licensing authority wanted to object, that we would have to then submit a request for an appeal or for a hearing, so if the board's okay with it, we can just acknowledge that.
Okay. The town solicitor has requested that the board vote to designate the town solicitor and special counsel as special municipal employees under Chapter 268A. While these positions have always been considered special municipal employees, we are not aware of when the formal vote was taken by the Board of Selectmen designating them as such. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Town Solicitor, would you like to say anything, or are there any questions?
Just for clarification, the town does maintain a list of special municipal employees. I think the town solicitor position is on that, but we weren't aware of when that vote was taken. The town also uses special counsel too. For example, my firm is considered special counsel because they do work for the town. The treasurer uses a law firm to do some of his tax work. The planning board uses a certain law firm for some of the advice that they get. Those positions really should be, and I think they always have been considered special municipal employees, but we weren't aware of any vote that was taken. So I want to go back before the board because this issue did come up in a prior matter. So we're really just seeking to clarify that. And as a special municipal employee, you have to meet certain criteria. You can only hold a part-time position that will work less than like 800 hours for the past year. And then there's certain exemptions that don't apply. For example, the attorney who does the work for the planning board, he or she would have the opportunity to go before a different board as long as it wasn't the same matter. So there's certain exemptions that wouldn't apply to special municipal employees. In my case, for example, Myra O'Connell is a special counsel appointed by the law committee. So I am obviously a partner of Myra O'Connell. Do I share in that the fact that they've been appointed, that Myra O'Connell has been appointed special counsel? Yeah, because I'm a partner at the law firm. But that's an exemption that you get as a special municipal employee. So there's certain exemptions that apply. Like these positions, though, I think, based upon my conversations with Michael, is that I think they've always been considered special municipal employees, but we just couldn't locate the vote. So that's why I put them before the board.
Okay. So a motion's been made and seconded to designate the town solicitor and special counsel as special municipal employees under 268A, Chapter 268A. Is there any discussion by members of the board? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Local guidelines for marijuana facilities. This is as a result of some of our machinations with recent applicants for marijuana facilities. And we asked that some guidelines for marijuana establishments be developed, and town council, I guess it's town council, has supplied some, basically we're looking at the town of Shrewsbury's process for marijuana establishments to approach the town and, look for a letter of non-opposition or whatever the present term is. So I'll turn it over to town council. And
The example that's in your packet from the town of Shrewsbury, I don't know if you had a chance to look at that, but it's very detailed. It really just mirrors the regulations, and a lot of information in there. They're asking for everything that the Cannabis Control Commission would ask for, and again, it's up to the board. But some of those things, I don't think an applicant first coming in seeking a host community agreement is going to have some of those particular items in place, because that's all those submittals there that are outlined in the Shrewsbury guidelines are submittals that would go to the Cannabis Control Commission, who ultimately approves the application. And this board can certainly ask for all those things, but the likelihood of, I think, an applicant preparing all those in advance before even having any interest by the board, I think is remote. I mean, the prior applicants that came in that the board has approved, they certainly didn't have all this information. It's actually asking for the applicant, everything that's going to be submitted to the commission. So that's just an example. I have another, the Cannabis Control Commission did put out a checklist that might serve as another guideline for the board. I think if you look at that checklist, some of the stuff in the business information would obviously be relevant, but I think more more specifically on page 2, where it talks about the operations information. Those are some of the things that I think that the board has requested from prior applicants, where it talks about the, security, prevention, storage, transportation, some of the stuff, some of the overview that the board may want to hear up front before the applicant's gotten into all the specific details. So the board may want to consider, taking a part of this checklist and making that, we could take that and develop that into just the guidelines for applicants to submit to the board. Because if you think of it, the applicants are really coming before the board seeking the approval from the board to enter into a community host agreement. That's really what they want. And then once because that's one of the submittals that they actually have to have in connection with their application.
They're looking for guidance from the Board of Selectmen too, saying, what do you guys want, pretty much, too? What do we need to do?
Right.
So it's important to have something in place.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that the town council and town administrator prepare a simplified version of these two plans, or whatever they think is in the best interest of the community, for us to review and finalize.
Okay, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded for the town administrator and town council to take a look at these two guidelines, the checklist and maybe the Shrewsbury thing, and come up with a reasonable document for us to look at. There any discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Next item on the agenda under old and news business is the Tax Classification Study Committee report. The Tax Classification Study Committee would like to present a report to the Board of Selectmen. With that, I guess I will turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Kerrigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it pleases the board, I just want to give a little background on what we did over the past 6 months, I guess, in an attempt to clear up any misunderstandings. Tax Classification Subcommittee was created in November 2017 when Mr. Jakonski and I were appointed. After several months of advertising for volunteers, 2 residents stepped forward, Paul Cherubini and Stephen Philbin. Principal Assessor David Baird also agreed to serve. Town Administrator Michael Ward and Director of Community and Economic Development, Phil Duffy, attended some meetings in advisory roles. We met 4 times, once in April, twice in May, and once in October. 2 meetings were held during the day and 2 at night. All were advertised and open to the public. In those 4 meetings, 1 member of the public was present, Christopher McDermott, Public Affairs Manager of the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce, attended our October meeting but did not participate. Throughout the course of our meetings, we received a thorough introduction to what goes into setting a tax rate and how a split tax rate works. We looked at what other towns are doing in this regard, reviewed a great number of reports and research into the advantages and disadvantages of a split tax rate. It was all very enlightening and sometimes frustrating. Because if anyone who takes this process seriously knows, setting a tax rate is a complicated process that involves several factors. That process gets even more complicated when a community has a split tax rate like ours, and the issue of how that rate affects economic development comes into question. As I have said on numerous occasions, we could find no direct correlation between lower tax rates and increased business. For every anecdote supporting that argument, we found others that pointed to other factors as being more important. What we did agree, however, is that the town needs to do everything in its power to make Clinton more attractive to business. A more diverse, robust business community will not only improve the quality of life for residents, but provide for an expanded, more resilient tax base that will eventually benefit everyone who lives and works here. Here are our recommendations. As I've stressed in the past, these are just that, recommendations. We understand this is a complicated issue. Many people have different philosophies. We tried to come up with the best objective solution for the good of the entire town. I'm just going to read the recommendations section here. The entire report's, I'm hopefully going to get it up on the town website. It's on my website right now, kerriganforclinton.com, if you want to download it. Clinton's split tax rate may have been intended to provide a benefit to residential taxpayers, but over time, the practice has cost the town long-term growth and improvement at the expense of immediate relief. Clinton is a town founded on industry, and to reach its fullest potential, we believe it must nurture a vibrant and varied business community. Even if we can't point to concrete examples of the shift hurting business, it has undoubtedly contributed to the perception that Clinton isn't doing everything it can to attract business or support those already here. Surely, expanding Clinton's commercial industrial tax base is a challenge involving many factors that go well beyond setting the tax rate. However, we feel the town cannot afford to leave any options on the table in this area. As a result, we recommend a slow, steady move toward a more equitable tax burden for all property owners, whether residential, commercial, or industrial. Our recommendations are two. One, reduce the tax rate split at the rate of 2% a year until a single rate is achieved. Making an all-at-once leap to a single rate of $19.45 per thousand would result in a jarring increase of $883 to the average residential taxpayer, and just as an aside, we never considered this as an option. Chipping away at the split would spread out that impact to residential property owners over time and demonstrate that the town is committed to improving the climate for businesses here. Equally important is recommendation number two, continue to expand exemption programs as allowed by law, and also publicize the availability of these programs and the senior work program to increase participation among those potentially affected by a tax increase. In closing, on a personal note, I'd like to thank the members of this subcommittee for volunteering and offering their insight. They're here tonight to answer questions. Speaking for myself, I'd also like to stress that any change to the tax split will mean nothing if it's the only thing we do. Economic development is a puzzle of many pieces, and this is just one. If we don't make this a real priority for Clinton and start doing everything we can to make this town better for business, we have failed our residents, regardless of how the vote goes next week. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any comments or questions by
I
members
just
of
had
the
a
board?
question, Mr. Chairman. Just a month ago, Michael, I reached out to Michael to grab all the readings in any literature this tax classification subcommittee received, and I did, and I want to thank Michael and the people that gave it to me, but there's several documents missing because his works cited page, 3/4 of this I never received. I received all the other ones, but I never received 3/4 of them. I'm just curious why.
I can address that if you like. I think I had provided copies to, I think it was actually Joyce, via Michael's request.
Could you please come speak at the microphone, please? Just Elson's asking you behind you,
And
that's
you
why.
should say who you are.
I will. David
Okay.
Baird, Principal Assessor. So all the documents that you received, Mr. Sergeant, were copies that were provided to the board, 100%. I think what the citing references were that are in there are just conversational references. They weren't necessarily documents that were produced. You have all of the documents that were produced.
Well, I think there weren't just conversations, these are documents.
If the documents were presented to the committee, they were copied to you, because I had a specific stack of all the documents and they were all.
Some of this works cited pages, documents, were never given to me. I just want to bring that to you.
I'm just saying that the documents may not have existed, it was just conversational.
Well, for example, David,
Mr. Chairman,
just so, I mean,
I was
The back
unaware
page.
of
The back
the
page.
request. I
Mike, to
include-
be honest with you, I didn't have time to go through this.
well, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just trying to,
Mr. Chairman and my fellow board members, let's leave the tax rate alone this year. Let's reach out to our taxpayers by having a non-binding ballot question at the next town election. That is only fair because the subcommittee failed to do one big thing, not communicating to our residents with no public hearings. We changed the trash service in the town of Clinton a few years ago, and that subcommittee had 2, if not 3, public hearings. Why not have more public hearings? The people's voice needs to be heard, and please don't railroad the people of Clinton. The report of the tax classification subcommittee should be provided to the public. It should be published in the Clinton Daily Item, and it should be placed on the town website, like Selectman Kerrigan just said. We should be over-communicating to the taxpayers. We should remember that we are in the customer service business. In 2010, I ran for the Board of Selectmen. I made a pledge to always have the best interests of the town of Clinton. I could never vote to raise the taxes for our seniors. 100% our seniors will be losing their houses, putting more stress in their lives. Shame on you. Also, I could never vote to raise the residential tax rate for the working class families of our town. Working-class families are already working 2, or if not 3 jobs, trying to put food on the tables for the loved ones. The rich will get richer. The report states that the tax classification subcommittee cannot find any concrete examples of the current shift hurting businesses in town. So why change the tax rate? It's because of a handful of people wants the tax rate to be even. In these economic times, I cannot support increasing taxes on the residential taxpayers. Mr. Chairman and my fellow board members, let's leave the tax rate alone this year. Let's reach out to our taxpayers. Let's have a non-binding ballot question so the people can be heard. Please don't railroad the taxpayers of Clinton. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Just as a
Mr.
point,
Carey.
just as a point of clarification, we said we couldn't find any evidence that it resulted in attracting businesses. We didn't look into whether it affected businesses.
Would this committee or would this board support a non-binding ballot question at the next town election?
I wouldn't.
Just to hear
No.
from the people.
Huh?
I wouldn't support that,
Why?
because that's what we're elected here to do, David. We've been setting the tax rate since the Board of Selectmen's been the Board of Selectmen.
Why have you changed? You used
We
to
didn't
be-
change anything.
You
Well,
used to be a selectman before this time, Mark, and you always supported our seniors. Now you're against them.
I don't think this is an issue of seniors voted versus the town. You want to make it that.
I
And
don't
it's
want
easy to sit here and grandstand to the largest.
Their money, Mark.
It's easy to sit here and grandstand the largest voting block in town, David, because that's what you're doing. You do it every time. Where were you? How'd you vote back in 2013? We voted for Prop 2.5, voted for the schools.
I'd have to recall. I don't have it on the top.
I think you
of my head.
voted in favor for it, David.
Mark, you live at home with your mother, Mark. You don't pay taxes, Mark.
David, you lived at home with your mother for your whole life. Now all of a sudden you're
Absolutely.
what? You're
Absolutely.
right.
But you don't pay
I
taxes.
paid taxes.
Gentlemen,
Wait, hold
gentlemen,
on.
gentlemen,
David, I used to own
gentlemen,
property in the
really,
town of Clinton.
It's not relevant to the
So I used to pay
taxpayers
taxes in the town of Clinton for 3 years,
who
David. How many
lives
years did you
where.
pay taxes for? 0. You never paid taxes, period. I have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
If I may?
okay.
First, I want to thank the subcommittee for their report. Regardless of where anyone stands on this question of split or no split, or lowering the split or raising the split, this was the finest example of work of a subcommittee that I've ever seen in my time on this Board of Selectmen. This is a very well-written, well-researched, well-thought-out presentation to the board, giving us facts and information and opinion, because that's what this is all about, is about opinions from a subcommittee. And I want to thank everybody, Sean, Mike, David, and also especially the 2 citizens who stepped forward and participated in this, Paul and Steve. I really appreciate the work that you did. No matter what the final report was, the work that you did is very, it's awesome as far as I'm concerned. And I want to thank you all for the work that you put forward in putting this presentation together. We will be debating this again at another meeting where we vote on what the split is. But I want to clarify that this board, by that vote, is not raising or lowering taxes. Taxes were established, or the amount of money that's necessary to raise by taxes was established at town meeting by the voters, expressing their point of view of how much money they wanted to spend. It was, town meeting and budget is subject to numerous public hearings, numerous opportunities for the public to be present. And unlike the establishment of the trash collection process in Clinton, the recycling program, this is an annual thing, a responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. We're elected to make this determination of what the split should be, or if there should be a split. That's our job. We do it every single year. It's not something new. It's not a new program that we just came up with. It's something we've all done for my almost 10 years on the board. We've done, and before that, I know it was done. And the public's well aware of it. So calling for a public hearing on top of public meetings on top of all the other opportunities. I do not support putting a ballot question on to decide what is the decision of this board. That's our job. It may not be fun, it may not be easy, but it's our job. That's what we're elected to do. So I'll save the rest of my comments for next week or whenever we have the meeting on the rate split. And I want to just close by, again, thanking the subcommittee for the work that they did.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, just, I really want to echo, and I did forget, Attorney Philbin, Mr. Chair, Beanie, David, Sean, and Michael, and I do thank you for your service to that subcommittee. 1,000% I do.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to speak too, as well.
Certainly.
I'd like to thank the committee. You guys put a lot of good work in. This is a great report. You know, I went through it, read it a couple times, and I know you guys put a lot of work into it, and a lot of the stuff there wasn't easy, and I appreciate the effort you did. Other than that, I would say that I don't think this board's railroading anybody. I think that the citizens in this town, of Clinton, business owners alike, can come here. We have 22 times opportunities they can come a year to come and speak, public comment. They can come here 22 times, not including they can come to a town meeting and speak to the budget or what have you. So I don't think anyone's being railroaded here. To say that, it's just ridiculous. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and lastly, I would thank the members of the committee, particularly the private citizens. We had kind of a hard time getting anyone because everyone knew that it was going to be a bit of a political hot potato, and that no matter what position one took, there were going to be a significant number of people unhappy with that position. So it took a good deal of courage to volunteer for the committee, and I very much appreciate that, and thank particularly you two guys, Attorney Philbin and Mr. Cherubini, who are, you know, private citizens. I thank you very much, and I admire your fortitude. I would advise or urge my fellow townspeople, once we do get it up on the town website, which I think we should, or if you can look at Sean's website before that. It is a very well-written document, and whether you agree with the recommendations or not, there's a great deal of very good information to be had in it. I would just say that I think a public hearing was not necessary because what we were doing here was asking a group, this subcommittee, to gather data, analyze that data, and make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, as opposed to the recycling committee where we were making substantial changes in the way the town was handling its trash pickup, and people had a vital practical interest in that, and so we did want to solicit opinions. Next, I don't know if it'll be next week, but
It's next week.
is it next week we're going to do? Next week,
Yes.
there is the tax classification hearing, and that is a public hearing, and we invite people to attend, to echo what David had to say if they wish, or to more or less agree with the committee. The only thing I would sort of add is that my take on some of the evidence is that there's no evidence that a tax split hurts business coming to town. I'll just point to Worcester, which has been increasing its split lately, increasing the amount of taxes that they they're increasing the industrial and commercial taxes, and they just landed the PAW Sox. I mean, you know, and they are fairly successful. They lose businesses and gain businesses, and so it's a complicated issue. It's always a difficult vote because you just don't know. So thank you to all, and for everyone's comments. And with that, we'll move on to the next item on the...
I do just have a
Go
question,
ahead.
Mike. The 7-day forecast, 10-day forecast shows snow for next Wednesday. And then is there an article in the paper that's gonna say, hey, public hearing, please, if you want to come to the tax classification? We're gonna have something in the item, or?
That's up to the newspaper if they want to print an article. We're obligated to do a legal notice, and we've had it last Friday and this coming Friday. There'll be a legal notice in the paper. That's our obligation that we do every year, so.
Could we just spruce that up a little, maybe put a bigger ad, maybe the second page instead of the little tiny fine print? Could we do that? Is that possible? Or do you wanna just, let's do the fine print? Come on.
We leave that up to the newspaper. They put it in as they see fit. However, it's printed as a legal notice in the newspaper, so.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we put an ad in the paper on the second page and stating that there's a tax rate public hearing for next week.
Mr. Chairman, if I can
Yes.
ask, is it too late? It's too late to meet the advertising deadline to change.
They print the paper tomorrow.
And I just got the tax classification subcommittee this week. I wish I got enough to go. Thank you.
Okay, that it?
Yep.
All right. Next item on the agenda. Goals and objectives discussion. Are there any goals and objectives discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
pardon me, I need my glasses. I can never recall if this goes under all the new business or the sidewalk report. I want to make my annual complaint about snow removal and see if we can get something on a future agenda to talk about this. I've been approached by some business owners who have done their part and are frustrated that others don't. I've been approached by some residents who are having trouble walking around. We had one small storm, and we're already in midwinter form as far as not shoveling. Water Street is a complete loss, and I'm just frustrated. And I know our philosophy in the past has been to try and go with carrots, and we're either going to have to come with a big carrot to calm me down, or we're going to go to sticks. I'm willing to consider anything, but when we talk about economic development, one of the biggest advantages we actually have is walkability. And if that is only the case 8 months a year, I don't know why we're redoing sidewalks on Water Street, on Franklin Street, High Street's coming, Main Street was just done. If these are dead ends or impassable, talk about seniors, mobility challenged, young moms pushing baby carriages, fat people like me who are trying to lose some weight. Having sidewalks doesn't matter if people are parking on them and not shoveling them, and I'm fed up. So I would love any wisdom that this board can share with me, or if we can figure out something for down the road and talk about this, but I'm at my wit's end.
If I may, Mr. Kerrigan, Selectman Kerrigan, Michael, we did reach out. Mark was a little upset about the sidewalk situation last year too, but I'm saying 3/4 of the general public doesn't know there's a town bylaw that you're supposed to shovel the sidewalk. There's probably 90% of the commercial businesses in town that the manager has no clue there's a town bylaw that the sidewalk's supposed to be shoveled. We asked the DPW to send out notices and stuff. Was that sent out? No.
All right,
Wasn't?
Was it?
No,
I never got one in my
I agree,
mail.
I didn't either, so.
I thought it was going to be sent out with,
It was supposed to go to tax bills, I
Right,
thought,
the
and the
water
water and
bill.
sewer bills, yeah.
I thought it was going to be sent out with the water bill.
Water
That's
and
what I
sewer.
mean. I mean, we've talked about it, and yeah,
We've already-
I'm just as frustrating. If
I
it's a
agree.
marketing thing, then that's an easy fix. Then I'm willing to, but we have to do it, because then another year goes by, and then I go out and have a coronary trying to walk around. So, yeah, if it's a marketing thing, that was another thing when we get to committee reports, then I'm happy to take that on my subcommittee and talk to Chris and get that
And it's
nailed down
also,
as
it's
a
also
first
the police
step.
department enforcing people parking on sidewalks too.
Well, at what point are we gonna get there? I know we were gonna
That
test out
happens
the
as
new
well.
bylaw and see if we're
But we
just.
allow the state to park on our sidewalks, and if you look at those sidewalks, they're ruined.
Yes.
They're
I-
awful.
I agree.
Maybe let's ask our state reps and our state senators to come in, and maybe they can come up with some money to fix our sidewalks over here on Chestnut Street. It's wrong.
I'm willing to consider anything. on
It's
this.
wrong.
Just the way it's going now, I can't.
Mr. Chairman, is there a penalty in the bylaw for failure to clear the sidewalks?
I think it's like $100, $150. But again,
And who,
it's enforcing it. It's
and that's my next question, is what is the enforcement mechanism? Is it a police department citation?
I just think this is it's a no teeth thing. I don't think we've ever enforced it.
But maybe that's the big step.
Listen,
So,
I'm not sure the police would enforce that.
I think there is no enforcement, there is no enforcement mechanism.
Well,
Wouldn't that be
there-
fair
For
to
not
say?
shoveling, yeah.
If the bylaw says $100 fee, maybe that's part of not just a marketing and education program, but, or including in that education program, the knowledge that it is, there is a penalty attached, and have a plan to execute citations.
But the only thing about that, I've noticed half the town sidewalks in the town of Clinton that the town is responsible wasn't plowed, so I'm not gonna find the taxpayers of the town of Clinton when the town of Clinton's not doing
I
it.
cannot disagree.
100%.
I cannot disagree. It's especially frustrating when that's the case because, yeah, then we have no moral high ground at all. So, like I said.
I think we need a definitive policy in place, because this is just gonna go back and forth, nothing's gonna get done. You gotta change the culture in town too, because people continue to park on sidewalks. It's gonna keep happening. You can repave them, cement them, people are still gonna park on them unless you enforce it. You gotta enforce it.
So, so do we need, can we put this on?
Well,
How do we handle this
here's the
right
thought that I have.
I'm happy, go ahead.
Here's the thought that I have. Most of these goals and objectives have a subcommittee associated with them. And those objectives that have a subcommittee associated with them tend to have results. For example, the downtown decorative streetlight project, when that started, there was no decorations at all. There are now some decorations, and we are looking forward to completely revamping the lighting on High Street at next town meeting. The tax classification study we just talked about. And OPB oversight, what is that?
That's
That's the
post-retirement.
post-retirement, which you're,
I'm chewing on that one still.
That's on
That-
in your
That's
subcommittee?
even worse. That's even worse than the other one.
but you're working on it. I
Yeah,
mean, I
sure.
would say should get a working group together and say, let's find out such things as, is there an enforcement mechanism? Who is supposed to be doing it? How can we better notify the citizens that they're supposed to? What's it going to take to get the town to do what they're supposed to do, what we're supposed to do? I mean, it's just not an issue that I think that we can bring up once every year at the
Right.
beginning of winter and expect there to be any resolution. So that is my suggestion. If somebody wants to make that motion,
I just
that would be
want
fine or not.
to say, Mr. Jaconskis, Mr. Chairman, is that there's also a gray line I'm being told is that we changed the parking. The winter parking ban is no longer in effect unless there's a storm and then there's a parking ban. Well, I've seen cars right over here, down the street, whatever streets, still there days after. And I'm being told that the Clinton Police Department will not ticket them because what's a snow emergency? We never define what the snow emergency is. Is it an inch? Is it a flake? Is it 2 inches? So I'm being told they don't know when the snow emergency is, so they won't ticket people. Is that true? I'm not sure, but that's what I'm being told.
Mr. Chair, I thought the plan was to give people the year to get used to it, and then maybe we, start getting a little more teeth involved as far as the switching the plans. But I agree, and I've been contacted by some people sending me pictures of cars, and right, it's going to snow tomorrow. Do they have to move before it's going to snow, or it's going to snow tonight? It's complicated, and I hate to bust chops here, but it's really unfair to a lot of different people. Where the people who do work and do make the effort, the people who use the sidewalks that we're supposed to provide for them. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with the chair, and that I think we have to take a look at this and talk about a puzzle of many pieces. But if without sidewalks, I don't know what we have here. So, I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I could make a motion that we request that, is it marketing and
Communication.
communication subcommittee take on the responsibility of creating an enforcement mechanism and a plan regarding sidewalk snow removal and winter parking.
Second. Is that a
There you
motion,
go,
right?
there you go, Mark.
Just under discussion, though, please remember that the bottom of Cumberland Hill, going up to the courthouse, there's a DCR sidewalk going up there, so they have to shovel that sidewalk
I've thought
too.
about this too, I know.
Going down Chestnut Hill, across the street.
Right.
Well, there's no houses over there, so the town,
Right,
no.
yeah, and there's
Well-
sidewalks that are now grass, what do we do
If we're
there?
gonna find the taxpayers,
Listen,
all
I'm
these other
not,
places.
I'm
we
not
do
looking to
them
find
first.
anybody, I just want the sidewalks back, so, I mean,
I think cleared sidewalks, whether it's, you know, wintertime, summertime, it's a 365-day thing that we should be enforcing, not just seasonal. Whether it's parking, same thing with parking, it's a 24/7, 365-day issue that we should be doing. It shouldn't be seasonal and when we pick and choose when we want to do something. We have to change the culture, and that's how you do it. You're gonna enforce it.
we
No
have
one
to
wants to
change-
enforce it because it's not popular. I
And we
get
have
it.
to change the culture internally too. I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
It's been an ongoing annual.
It's on both sides.
effort
I'm not
to
very
get
debating
Central
that.
Park clear. We buy snow plows and, snow removal tools and, fund their budget, and half the time the sidewalks in Central Park aren't clear.
Well, you have to have an enforcement mechanism in place because you do all this stuff. If you don't enforce it, you know what happens. Nothing gets done, and it's just what we're doing again. We're just spinning our wheels here. And you
Okay, then-
need to have a certain group, whoever's gonna enforce it, we need to have that as well. Someone needs to enforce it.
we'll come up with some recommendations for the board
Well,
as soon as
we
possible.
haven't approved yet. We haven't
If
approved,
approved.
punishing you for bringing it up by giving you the responsibility of
Oh,
solving
my
the
wife's gonna
problem.
be thrilled.
Yeah.
So we have a motion to that effect on the table. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Mr. Kerrigan,
Moving on
we
to
wish you luck.
As following that up for my committee report, I actually submitted marketing communication goals and objectives for the board's approval. I will, they didn't make it into the packet, I will add this on, I guess, and
Okay.
hopefully we can talk about the next meeting. We have a great group and they're very eager to get started, so hopefully the board will be as excited as we are.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question regarding another goal and objective, the OPEB oversight recommendations.
Yes.
Where did we leave that?
I
Not in-
was.
Not in your lap, too.
Sort of. I mean, I've been just poking around trying to see if anybody's making headway in other towns. It's obviously a problem that far exceeds what we're doing here. And so it's been a very informal exploratory phase, just trying to get myself up to speed as still the greenest member here, just trying to understand it. And so I admittedly haven't gotten very far. If we want to formalize what we want to do, this one's going to be ending worse than the other one.
Would you consider transferring the responsibility for developing information to another subcommittee?
Sure.
I hate to see your subcommittee.
I mean, I'm interested in it anyway. I just need to get up to speed, but if somebody else wants to take it, I mean, I'd be happy to help.
What subcommittee?
I know, I
Someone
can't
else
really
wants to
hear you
drive.
over there.
I was asking if Sean would consider moving responsibility for the oversight recommendations to a different subcommittee, and I was,
This one's not going to be solved overnight
It-
or within a year, or, this is the longest term problem we have in this town.
And
It's going to
it's-
take a long-term
it's
solution.
significant, and there's no, in my opinion, I've been watching it, and I understand it, and I don't have in my, repertoire some reasonable solution
Right.
to the problem.
You're not alone.
So I was asking if the committee would consider assigning it to the Government Affairs Subcommittee.
Okay, well, if you make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
That's a motion if Sean
And I will
supports
second
that.
it, yeah.
All right, motion's made and seconded to transfer what does OPEB?
Other post-employment benefits.
Other post-employment benefits, oversight recommendations, to transfer responsibility to the Government Affairs Subcommittee. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion's carried. Well, so you didn't make out too bad tonight, Sean. You got out from under that. But you'd be under the sidewalk before the while. Next item on the agenda is committee reports. Are there any committee reports? I have a committee report, and that is with regard to the Selectmen's holiday party, which really is run by Joyce. I would like to say that I did attend that holiday party this past Saturday, and it was extremely well attended, and I think it reflects very well on the town of Clinton. I know, just by talking to some people there, that we do have visitors at that party from outside of Clinton. I'm very much in favor of that. I think it's a feather in the cap of the town and brings people in. And Joyce really runs it. She's not here tonight, but she really deserves a great deal of credit. And we would like to say that the event would not be possible without the continued support of the following local businesses: the Town of Clinton Civics Fund, Clinton Savings Bank, Clinton Exchange Club, the Clinton Rotary, Farrager and Hennebury, J. Bates and Sons, Avidia Bank, Apple Country Market, Dunkin' Donuts, J.R. Grady and Sons, Realty Vision, Leominster Credit Union, McNally, Watson Funeral Home, Clinton Offset Printers, Whitney Brothers Oil. And Joyce asked me to make mention, special thanks to the following dedicated volunteers who contribute to the success of the event: the Clinton Fire Department, firefighters P.J. Chamberlain, Kyle Schaefer, and Rich Baker, the Clinton High School Excel students, Clinton area Girl Scouts, Millie Johnson, Jean and Beth Jakonski, and special guest Louis de St. Bernard, Christine and Hannah Zentgraf, Clinton High School Media Department, and Town Administrator Michael Ward. Also, the Christmas Lighting Committee, the tree lighting and caroling were held in the evening. The way it worked this year is 1 to 3 was the Christmas party, then 3 to 5 was showing the Muppets Christmas Carol in the Strand, and then they did the tree lighting. And for the tree lighting, we would like to thank the Clinton and Lancaster Area Girl Scouts, Clinton High School Excel students, Clinton Christmas Lighting Committee, the Clinton Parks and Recreation Department. And all of the decorations were created by students at the Clinton High School and students at Assabet Valley Technical High School. The new sort of cutout that we have is the Jolly Elf, and probably some of you have seen him. The decorations were distributed this year with the help of Town Administrator Michael Ward, Matthew Ward, and Francis Ward, Community and Development Director Phil Duffy, DPW Superintendent Chris McGowan, and the Clinton Fire Department. So it was quite a nice multiplicity of events, and so we thank all of those people. Any other committee reports?
I just had a question. When I came in tonight, I noticed the Christmas lights aren't on. And before the meeting started at 5 minutes to 7, I looked outside and make sure they were on, and they're not on. Just, can you reach out to the Parks and Recs and ask them why the Christmas lights aren't on?
And none of the lights are on in the park?
As of 5 minutes to 7, I haven't got up
I didn't
since, but I
notice
don't
when I
think
pulled
they're, I
in.
don't see them in here.
Okay.
It's a shame to put all that effort into setting it all up, Mr. Chairman, and then not have it used.
Just so they're aware of it, Mike.
Right.
Yep. The director lives out of town, so she may not be aware of it.
Okay. Any other committee reports? There being none, it appears that that is the last item on the agenda, and we will accept the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.